The Red Wizards are the ruling class of Thay, a highly magical country ruled by a council of powerful wizards called Zolkirs that report to their dictator, the Lich Zaz Tam. Red Wizards are known throughout Faerun as being evil, warmongering spellcasters who wield incredible power. They control armies of undead soldiers, fill their mansions with helpless slaves, and kill anyone who slights them. But what are they really like? And what do they even do? I'm sure most of that you already knew, but in this video, I want to dive deep into the Red Wizards. How does one become a Red Wizard? What are they like? What do they do? Where do they stand in relation to the rest of Thay's people? Now, before I get into the lore, I just want to go over the sources that I am using for this video. The three sources I am using are the 2nd edition book Spellbound, the 3rd edition book Unapproachable East, and the 5th edition DM's Guild product Thay, Land of the Red Wizards. Now, technically, that last book, since it's not an official Wizards of the Coast product, it is a third-party book, it's not technically considered canon, it's not allowed to be cited as a source on the Forgotten Realms wiki, so a lot of this information you won't be able to find on there. However, Wizards of the Coast will probably never publish official lore in 5th edition for Thay, because they don't like to do anything outside the Sword Coast, and even when they do, they keep the lore very light and vague and boring. So this is kind of all we have for the current 5th edition timeline of the 1490s DR. And also, the man himself, Ed Greenwood, the creator of the Forgotten Realms, worked on that book. So, in my opinion, it's canon. And for the sake of this video, I'm considering it canon. There's also a lot of really cool artwork that kind of gives you an idea of what the people of Thay look like and what the land and cities of Thay look like that you can't find anywhere else. So it's a really good book. You should pick it up. And if you want to know more about the Red Wizards or Thay in general, you should check out all of these books. So, back to the Red Wizards. First, let's start with how do you become a Red Wizard and what is that training like? Every infant in Thay is tested for the gift. In the Forgotten Realms, the gift is the ability to manipulate the weave and cast spells. Not just anyone with the correct education can learn to become a wizard. No, you have to be born with this talent and then taught. Forgotten Realms wizards are honestly a lot like Harry Potter wizards in that regard. They are tested in infancy, although in rare circumstances, they can be tested a second time in early adulthood. Beyond that age though, the Red Wizards deem magic to be soured or lost. They are tested first by being exposed to a magical enchantment, such as an item that glows or radiates heat, but one that is designed to be alterable by one with the gift for magic. They then see if the subject can sense or affect it. Whether they are successful or not, this is then followed by a formal test done by 2 Red Wizards, where their status is tracked in a register. Red Wizards do not want unrecognized, potentially hostile wizards or sorcerers dwelling within Thay. If they show no aptitude for magic, they are guided by a tutor or mentor to help find what talent they are good at so that they can become a productive member of society. If they do have the gift, they are removed from their family and reared by Red Wizards and nurses under the command of Red Wizards. This is done to instill loyalty to Thay, also known as brainwashing. They're taught that other nations are jealous of Thay's achievements, and the Red Wizards are the only thing keeping them at bay. During this time of their life, these students are given opportunities to betray their tutors and Thay, then caught and either slain or transformed into bestial forms and caged to serve as a grim warning of what happens to traitors. They are told that their ultimate loyalty lies to Zaz Tam, then to the Zolkir of their chosen school, then the other 7 Zolkirs, and then the rest of the Red Wizards according to rank in the hierarchy. In the old days, before Zaz Tam's rule, there was quite the rivalry between the schools of magic to ensure that their school was the most powerful. It was common for Red Wizards of one school of magic to capture other Red Wizards who showed aptitude for their school, and for them to kill powerful wizards who showed potential for a different school. Zaz Tam put a stop to this since it was weakening the Red Wizards, and by extension Thay. Now, Red Wizards are subjected to magical testing to reveal what schools of magic a given student is good at. Once this aptitude is determined, Red Wizards are formally entered into their education. At this early stage, they are not allowed to experiment or craft new spells because it is dangerous, and they repetitively practice to ensure they can master a spell and cast it in the exact same way every single time. When they are allowed to experiment, it must be done under the direct supervision of a Red Wizard superior. This is to ensure loyalty and conformity. In addition to their magical training, Red Wizards are trained in a variety of non-magical talents, such as languages, habits and customs of merchants of many lands, the lives of monsters, how to read people in order to predict what they are thinking or what they'll do next, and analyze their surroundings to identify escape routes and threats. They are also encouraged to pursue a hobby because this cuts down on treachery and rash decision-making. Red Wizard apprentices are not awarded any position of importance until they gain a minimal proficiency in magic. Minimal to the Red Wizards is 9th level. Once they reach this status, their superiors become increasingly paranoid of betrayal, since they are now magically competent. During this phase, they undergo loyalty tests and many apprentices are slain. Many of these mid-level wizards, levels 9 to 15, are spies, merchants, and agents for their sponsors, constantly striving to prove their loyalty. Now, where do the Red Wizards stand within Thay's society? So according to 2nd edition, all Red Wizards are nobles. But according to 3rd edition, only the most influential Red Wizards are nobles, implying that the rest aren't. Thay, Land of Red Wizards, also multiple times throughout lists nobles and Red Wizards as separate entities, which also seems to imply that not all of them are. There seems to be a bit of a contradiction here, but whether they are noble or not, when it comes to influence, wealth, and power, they are at least just as powerful as nobles, and they are above the noble class when it comes to societal position, because they are the ruling class. In terms of what the Red Wizards do, what kind of jobs they have and role they fulfill, it's a little chaotic, which I'll get into how chaotic their government is in a bit, but when it comes to what they do, they can fulfill a variety of jobs in Thay. They could be stationed on patrols through the countryside, tax stations, or ports and other entrances into the country, requiring people to show their paperwork, writing down what goods they are carrying, and making sure they pay the tolls and aren't a threat to the nation. They could be tasked as interrogators, working with the Probity Corps being Thay's secret police. They could be in the military, tasked with controlling armies of undead. They could be stationed at a government-ran mine, tasked with reasserting control over the zombie slaves and reanimating them whenever one dies. A lot of these seem pretty mundane because as scary and badass as the Red Wizards are, they're still government workers. Most of the boring jobs would probably be performed by those that have yet to reach 9th level. The mid-level wizards would act as spies, tag along with merchants, oversee a Thayan enclave, or something else deemed worth their time. And then the high-level, aka above 15th level, Red Wizards, who have little direct authority over them, either a senior mage or two, and then a Zolkir, or possibly answering directly to a Zolkir and then Zaztam, would have a lot more freedom to do what they want. These are the Red Wizards that sit in wizard towers, performing magical experiments, crafting new spells, creating horrible monsters, or developing plots to, let's say, take over the city of Neverwinter, such as Valendra Shadowmantle and the 4th edition Neverwinter campaign guide, or Sophina from the D&D movie Honor Among Thieves. Now let's discuss their race. At some point, I would like to do a video on Thayan society, in which case I'll talk a lot about how race plays into the rest of the society, but for this video, I at least need to cover race among the Red Wizards. The Red Wizards are almost always Mulan humans. The Mulani are the privileged race in Thay, while the Rashami, or really any non-Mulan, including non-humans, are the working class or worse. It used to be illegal for Red Wizards to take non-Mulan apprentices, but many did it anyway, and everyone just kind of looked the other way. In the current 1490s DR, this doesn't seem to be the case anymore. The Zolkir of Necromancy is the Moon Elf Lich Valendra Shadowmantle, the Zolkir of Abjuration is Sirikon, a woman of Shu descent, and the Zolkir of Evocation is a woman from Rashomon. If these non-Mulan, and even an elf, can get to the highest position possible, not counting High Regent of course, then surely this law is either gone or not enforced under Zaztam's rule. I see Zaztam as someone who sees anyone with magical talent as useful to have, regardless of race. Plus, I don't see how you can be an undead creature for over 300 years and still be a racist. Now, Thay as a society is still very racist, so some policy changes aren't going to get rid of that. I imagine a non-Mulan Red Wizard is going to have unique challenges, so I actually asked Ed Greenwood about this in his Discord. I was specifically asking about half-elves and demi-humans in general, since I have a friend who wants to play a half-elven Red Wizard at some point, but I imagine it's similar for humans of other ethnicities as well. Quote, "A demi-human Red Wizard is rather like a woman in our modern real world, trying to break the glass ceiling in the 1990s and 2000s. They'll be watched, gently harassed, and usually have to be really good at what they do to advance far, but they will be accepted as full Red Wizards, and trusted a little more than other Red Wizards, because superiors will think they can't go elsewhere, so they will be diligent and work hard and can be relied upon." End quote. As said earlier, Red Wizards don't want powerful spellcasters running around in Thay that haven't been trained and indoctrinated by them, so it makes sense to take in everyone capable of using the art, regardless of race. That being said, there are plenty of spellcasters that aren't Red Wizards. Most of the Probity Corps are spellcasters, and many of the Tharshians and Tharshianesses are sorcerers or wizards, but not Red Wizards. So there seems to be a path for people who are trained in the art to not become Red Wizards. On page 160 of Unapproachable East, when discussing the children that showed signs of arcane talent and were inducted into wizardry school, it says, quote, "Those who survive their apprenticeship and are ambitious, resourceful, and talented are invited to join the Red Wizards. Some refuse the red robes, but this is rare." End quote. That being said, in the same response Ed Greenwood gave me about demi-human Red Wizards, he also said, quote, "Thayan authorities want anyone with the gift to be a Red Wizard or dead and gone from Thay." End quote. So at first glance, this appears to contradict this. However, it could be just that the authorities want every spellcaster to be a Red Wizard or dead and gone from Thay, but that isn't always the case. Either because the law just simply says that they don't have to accept being a Red Wizard, and legally they're not allowed to do anything, or it could just be because of bribes, noble status, or the orders of a direct superior. Now let's discuss the hierarchy of the Red Wizards, and what role they play when it comes to governing the people of Thay. So at the very top are the Zulkirs, at least that's how it used to be. During the period between Thay's founding in 922 DR and Zaz-Tam's takeover around 1385 DR, Thay was a magocracy. The Council of Zulkirs were at the top of the government, ruling the country of Thay, and were appointed by their fellow Red Wizards. After Zaz's takeover, the very top became the regent of Thay, Zaz-Tam. The Zulkirs served under him and were appointed personally by Zaz-Tam himself. There are 8 Zulkirs, one for each school of magic. A Zulkir serves for life. The only way for a Zulkir to be removed from this position is if they are, quote, "destroyed utterly, beyond hope of resurrection or existence as a member of the undead," end quote. Now, once you get below Zulkirs, how is the hierarchy arranged? I mean, we have the whole lower level, mid-level, high-level stuff I mentioned earlier, but that's really vague. We know there is a hierarchy because of what I said earlier, and also because on page 9 of Thay Land of Red Wizards, it says that, quote, "The Red Wizards are on top with their own hierarchy descending from Zulkir and their spies and enforcers to senior mages of each school, then the rank and file experienced mages down through the novices," end quote. It makes multiple references to them having a hierarchy, and page 160 of Unapproachable East says, quote, "Within each school exists an elaborate pecking order, in which standing is determined by magical ability and the patronage of more powerful wizards," end quote. So obviously there will be powerful mages that are above the less powerful ones, but as far as I can tell, there's no rigid structure with titles and ranks. There's no roles with specific job titles. I mean, among the normal politicians you have that. The Tharshians and Tharshianesses that govern a Tharch are put in charge by, and thus beholden to, the Zulkirs. These Tharshians and Tharshianesses appoint local rulers and subordinates called Autharshes, and then you have various other political titles such as the Seneschals, which are responsible for taxing a region and other administrative functions, but those are all outside the Red Wizards. Those are normal politicians, not Red Wizards. I mean, technically a Red Wizard can be appointed to Tharshian, but it's rare. The hierarchy within the Red Wizards doesn't seem to have any rigidity or specifics to it outside the Zulkirs. Each Red Wizard has a more powerful wizard that's their direct superior, and they take orders from them. But other than that, they seem to be a very independent organization. You do whatever tasks you're appointed to, and then you can partake in whatever else you please. In addition to that, the laws don't seem to be neatly organized either. Spellbound states that the Red Wizards are all nobles, and that their word is law. If a Red Wizard asks for food and housing from you, you will oblige under penalty of death. The Tharshians and Tharshianesses that rule the Tharches have complete and total control over their Tharch, unless overruled by a Zolkir or Zaz-Tam. There's a book on the laws of Thay called the Library of Law, but the Zolkirs and Tharshians only refer to this when faced with a serious problem. Usually, they ignore it for the sake of expediency. For the most part, the law is whatever the people in charge say it is at that moment. The law is enforced by whoever claims to have jurisdiction over the people involved or the location in which the disturbance occurs. Sometimes more than one group will claim jurisdiction over an issue, and a fight will usually break out. Page 11 of the campaign guide in the Spellbound box set says, quote, "To outside observers, the term government as applied to Thay is a joke," end quote. This has led me to believe that if you could assign alignments to political entities, Thay would be a great example of a chaotic evil government. It has order where it is needed for a country to function, but otherwise its ruling class has no official hierarchy, ranks, or job titles. Their word is law, and they obey whoever is more powerful than them under threat of death. Might makes right. The Red Wizards can do whatever they want, because they can cast Disintegrate and the peasants can't, so the peasants have to listen. Because every important government position is beholden to the superior that put them in charge, Thay's government is filled with competing political factions, cabals, conspiracies, and secret societies. The Red Wizards themselves tend to be just as chaotic. Quote, "Pursuing mastery of the art is their core drive, and more often than not, they are loyal to none but themselves." End quote. Sure, the Red Wizards tend to be fanatically loyal to Thay, which seems to be a lawful ideal, but at the end of the day, most aren't beneath assassinating or plotting the downfall of a superior in order to rank up within the hierarchy. Chaos is valuing individual freedom over a grander idea. If you think about it, the Red Wizards are the freest citizens of Thay. They make the laws and are above most. Sure, they have superiors that they must listen to, but they have far fewer superiors than the non-Red Wizards of the nation. And they only have to listen to these superiors because those above them have the means to destroy them. If a Red Wizard gets powerful enough to defeat them, then they can become the superior. I see now why Red Wizards have a history of making deals with demons and rarely make deals with devils. I used to think any intelligent person would always choose devils to ask assistance from over demons, since devils will stick to their word and are predictable, while demons will betray you once they are bored. But now I get it. Thay's society reflects that of the Abyss much more than it does the Nine Hells. The Red Wizards would much rather force a creature to do their bidding by sheer force and magical domination than cleverly worded contracts. That is the Red Wizards of Thay. That is all the lore I could find between all the editions of D&D. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and remember to subscribe for more D&D related content.